All of Sonic's level B missions are fairly simple. Collect 50 rings before reaching the end of the level. Considering that it's possible to end a stage with 100 or more rings easily without even going out of your way to collect them, there isn't much I can say. However, the two things you need to worry about here are not losing the rings that you've collected and knowing where any additional rings are in case of an accident. Now, Sonic's level A missions can be quite a bit harder. You have a set amount of time to reach the end of the stage, and while that may sound easy enough, some of the times that you're given are borderline stupid, meaning that a poorly timed jump may cost you the mission. So the secret to beating Emerald Coast in 2 minutes is simply using the spin dash in the right places. If you don't use it in the right places, you can fly off into oblivion, and that's not good. The only shortcut is right here. If you use the spin dash, you'll launch yourself into the air and shave off a couple seconds. I usually take these springs, and once you use these springs, you're pretty much done with the level. It's actually a pretty straightforward run once you know how to use the spin dash effectively. So, unfortunately, in the first and second sections of Windy Valley, you can't really use the spin dash. But honestly, you don't really need to. But that changes the second you hit the ground in the third section. You can use the spin dash to your heart's content here. Well, for the most part. You don't want to die. There are some sections here where you can just kind of glitch over the railing or fly off into oblivion, but you should be able to recognize those sections for yourself once you get the hang of things. Other than that, this is a pretty simple stage too, so I'll just leave it at that. Casinopolis is an interesting stage, simply because the beginning and the end are pretty much right on top of each other. The only problem is that you need to collect 400 to 500 rings within the time limit. For me, I found that the quickest way to do that is to hop into a pinball game and to lose it immediately. You'll probably need to do that twice though, because the sewers usually give me 300 to 400 rings. So if you're lucky, you can get away with only one trip, but you'll probably need 2. Okay, so in my opinion, Ice Cap is probably the easiest level to A rank, simply because there are 2 major shortcuts right after each other. The first one, there's a hidden jump panel. If you jump on that jump panel, it will take you all the way across this chasm, past the first section, and just take you straight to the second shortcut, which is essentially the light speed dash over this ledge and fly into Oblivion glitch thing. The camera doesn't like it here, so be careful. But once you have this done, you've completed over 2/3 of the level in 40 seconds, leaving just the snowboarding section for the rest of the level. And honestly, you can't screw this up, so I just say have fun and enjoy the ride. Oh, but if you can't get the light speed glitch to work for whatever reason, jump onto this ledge here and it'll cut off a lot of time. Not as much as the other way, but it works. Twinkle Park is probably one of the easier levels to A rank, simply because the first section here really isn't anything special. No matter what you do, you're pretty much going to take the same amount of time here. The only advice I can really give you guys is to hit the boost panels, and to not hit other bumper cars, and to drift when needed. Now, the second section of Twinkle Park, there are technically 3 shortcuts here. I mentioned the first 2 in the LP, and I found the third one recently when I was replaying this stage again. The first one's pretty simple, just drop down after you leave the roller coaster, and, the camera's kinda crappy, so you may not make it. The second one's also pretty simple. You need to homing attack into the spring, and it should launch you right up onto this platform here. And thankfully, the third shortcut is right after the first 2, and this one's actually pretty simple to pull off. What you need to do is charge up a Lightspeed Dash, And you see those rings up there? That's what we're going for. So charge up a lightspeed dash, face this fence, jump away from it, and release the lightspeed dash at the top of the jump. You should go grab those rings, which cuts off a ridiculous amount of time and puts you right at the end of the stage. Okay, in my opinion, Speed Highway is the hardest level to A rank, simply because there are only a couple places where you can spin dash, and there are a lot of places to fall off. Pretty much the only bit of advice I can give you in the first section is to take the upper path here and to run like heck for the rest of it. The hardest section, really, is on the ground here with the cars, because you usually only have about 30 seconds to get to the other end of the area, and the safest route is to go up on the walls above the cars. And it's really easy to fall down, and if you fall down, it's really easy to get hit by a car. And as you can see, even 2 seconds can mean the difference between passing and failing. Thankfully, all the A rank missions pretty much go downhill from here. Okay, puns aside, there are a bunch of little shortcuts in the first section of Red Mountain that make it pretty easy to get through. And even though you only have about 3 minutes to get through the entire level, it isn't as difficult as some of the other levels that have the same amount of time, simply because there are so many shortcuts. Now, most of these shortcuts are only possible because the level winds around itself so much, but honestly I'm not complaining because, unfortunately for us, the second section really isn't as easy because there's a lot of lava everywhere. I mean, really. You can't spin dash, and you have to do pretty much perfect jumps, because if you land in the lava, it eats up a lot of time, and there's only one shortcut here, and even that shortcut isn't that big. The only problem, though, is that the final stretch here has a lot of obstacles, and it's really easy to get hit by one of the hammers, or the fire, or one of the enemies, and not make it in time. But thankfully, if you saved enough time in the first section, you should be fine here. So, when I said that the levels started going downhill from here, I didn't just say that because I wanted to make a pun. The levels really do get easier simply because they do get longer and you get more time to complete them. Thankfully, in this level, there are 2 major shortcuts that take off a ton of time, which makes it really easy to finish this level with a ton of time to spare. First one's really simple, just grab a hook. The second one's also pretty simple. Spin dash off of this platform and jump all the way over to this pillar. Only problem is, when the egg carrier tilts forward, Sonic gets kinda glitchy and gets stuck on things. A lot. But once you get past the glitchiness, you can jump down onto this platform, which is even more glitchy, and try as hard as you can to hit that button, because it's really hard to hit for some ungodly reason. Thankfully, Lost World is pretty simple to A rank, and honestly, you'll probably be playing it pretty similarly to how you played it during the story, with only a couple minor changes being any different. First is, you want to be sure to hit the first and third switches in this snake room by running on top of the snake. You don't want to wait for the snake to come all the way back around because it wastes too much time, and honestly, the rest of the level is pretty much all the same as before. You don't really need to worry about much. Only thing is, in the last section here, if you come up to where these spikes are, run along the wall, and then stand on this ledge here, you can turn and look at this box over in the corner. Jump into the box, and follow the hallway down. It essentially drops you off at the very end of this section, which is amazing because this section can take you a couple minutes normally. And last but not least, we have Final Egg. Honestly, Final Egg is pretty straightforward. There aren't really any shortcuts that I'm aware of, other than the ones that I may have mentioned in the LP, that really make this level any easier. And honestly, this level isn't very hard to A rank to begin with. You just need to focus on not dying because, it's pretty easy to. But this level's pretty straightforward, and it's actually pretty fitting of a final level since there aren't a whole lot of shortcuts to make it any easier. So you're pretty much on your own for this level because there isn't much I can help you with.